The burden. That's what she called me. I was scrolling in bed, the blue glow of my phone slicing through the dark when I saw my sister's post. Family vacation without the burden. There they were, smiling on a yacht, cocktails in hand, golden sunlight kissing their skin. Everyone was in the frame. Everyone except me. 847 likes in 2 hours. Comments flooding in. Beautiful family. So happy for you guys. Goals. My chest felt like it was filling with wet cement. I stared at their faces, the way they leaned into each other as though I had never existed. My thumb hovered, then I typed, "Looks fun." Simple. Hollow. But it was my crack of thunder under their blue skies. What my sister didn't see, what none of them ever saw, was the quiet power I had left. Because the resort they were parading through, the bill they'd soon receive, carried a name they'd never connected to me. The name of the man I'd been working for since last winter. A man who wasn't just the owner, but someone who trusted me, someone who had seen value in me when my family didn't. His signature was stamped at the bottom of every receipt, every line of their all-inclusive arrogance. The room was still. My fingers tightened around the phone. My sister's caption kept replaying in my head. Without the burden. That word, it wasn't new. I had been the burden since childhood. The kid who needed braces, the teen who couldn't afford prom, the adult who didn't own a car. My family carried me like dead weight in their stories, forgetting they were the ones who tied me to their expectations. But in that moment, staring at her post, the balance shifted. For once, I wasn't the fragile one. They were. I whispered it into the dark, just to taste it. Tomorrow they'll know. And I didn't mean it as a threat. I meant it as a promise. Have you ever had your own family cross a line so deep it cut something open inside you? Tell me in the comments. I want to know if I'm not alone. The air outside was still heavy with the storm from earlier, raindrops clinging to the glass of my window. Each one caught the streetlight like a tiny lens. I thought of the resort windows, the way morning light would creep across their rented villa, waking them with luxury they thought was theirs to own. I closed my phone. For the first time in years, I felt lighter, not because they'd erased me, but because they'd finally written the ending themselves. All I had to do was let it play out, and by morning it would. The morning didn't arrive quietly. It cracked open, like glass shattering. I wasn't there, but I knew the rhythm of that resort better than they did. I'd worked those early hours. The scent of polished wood in the lobby, the hum of the espresso machine warming up, the shuffle of uniforms as staff prepared for entitled guests. By 8 o'clock, the front desk would have their bill printed, folded neatly in an envelope. By 8:30, the resort owner himself would step in for the morning walk-through. And by 9, their smiles would collapse. I imagined my sister, draped in silk, padding barefoot across marble floors, still believing she was untouchable. She'd swing her sunglasses over her head like a crown. She'd sip her orange juice, the ice clinking against the glass, pretending to belong. Then the envelope would appear. The name at the bottom, his name, would anchor the page like a final verdict. And my sister? She wouldn't see me, not my face, not my voice, but she'd feel me, because I was there, invisible between every line of that bill. I wish I could say I didn't care, but the truth is I wanted them to choke on it, not because I hated them, but because I wanted them to finally see the weight of the word they'd nailed me with, burden. The truth? I wasn't a burden. I was the one who kept breathing even when they carved me out of their story. I was the one who chose work over begging, who carved a life out of nights no one noticed. And now the owner, my mentor, would carry my silence straight to them. He didn't know the full story. He didn't need to. Loyalty doesn't always need explanation. When he saw my sister's post days ago, tagged with his resort, it was only a matter of time before he connected dots. He'd asked casually over coffee, "Are these people related to you?" My answer had been quiet, but steady. Yes, they are. That was enough. So when the knock landed on their villa door, when the words, "We're going to need you to leave," echoed through those polished halls, I knew the moment had bloomed. Somewhere across town, I was pouring my own coffee, letting the bitterness ground me. And though I wasn't there to watch their luggage being hauled out like spoiled fruit, I could picture every second of it, the silence in their throats, the shame in their eyes. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the burden. I was the shadow pulling the strings. And that realization, it tasted sweeter than revenge itself. They must have thought it was a mistake at first. My sister, with her painted nails gripping the paper, probably laughed it off. "You don't understand, this is prepaid." Her voice sharp, commanding, the way she'd spoken to waiters, to me, to anyone she believed was beneath her. My mother would have chimed in too, smoothing her hair, flashing her practiced smile. There must be some confusion. We're family. We're here for the week. But the owner doesn't play with words. His voice is always calm, clipped like a blade. He would have simply pointed at the signature, the non-negotiable rules, the contract every guest agrees to. He doesn't shout, he doesn't explain twice. That's what I admired about him when I worked behind his desk. By then, panic would have crept in. The resort lobby isn't designed for chaos. It's built to hum with quiet wealth. But I could see it in my mind, the way their luggage would scrape across the marble as staff rolled it out. My brother-in-law, red-faced, whisper-fighting with my sister. My cousins staring down at their phones, pretending not to exist. My mother pressing her lips so tight they vanished into her skin. And yet, beneath the shame, I knew there would be anger. Not at themselves, never at themselves. No, they would turn it toward me. Even without proof, even without my name spoken, they'd feel my fingerprints on the edges of that moment. Because deep down, they always knew I was the one who didn't fit their picture-perfect illusion. And the truth? That was the most delicious part. They had tried to erase me with a single caption, without the burden. But in trying to make me disappear, they handed me the sharpest weapon. Their arrogance became my alibi. I sat on my balcony that morning, mug warm in my hands, listening to the neighborhood wake up. The birds sang like nothing had changed, but I felt the world tilt. A small smile traced my lips, hesitant, unfamiliar. Not joy, not exactly. Something harder. Something like clarity. I thought about the photo again. Their bodies angled toward each other. The space where I should have been cropped out. It wasn't just exclusion, it was erasure. And yet, there I was, haunting them anyway. In every shadow, in every crack of their facade. Glass can be fragile, but it cuts deepest when it breaks. And I was breaking their picture, piece by piece. By noon, the story had already started leaking online. Not the full story, no one knew that yet, but pieces. Guests love to gossip when something unusual happens in a luxury resort. A family, well-dressed, suddenly escorted out with their luggage in tow. Phones come out. Whispers spread. Someone always posts a blurry video. I found one an hour later. My mother storming across the polished lobby, dragging a suitcase, my sister trailing behind her with sunglasses shoved over her face. The caption read, "VIP family kicked out?" What happened? 847 likes on her vacation post had swollen into a different kind of attention now. Curiosity, speculation, humiliation. I watched it unfold with a stillness I didn't know I was capable of. But inside, the storm hadn't cleared. Because I knew this was only the first crack. Families like mine don't crumble quietly. They claw. They hunt for a scapegoat. And I already knew whose name they'd whisper first. I didn't wait long. By evening, my phone buzzed. A message from my aunt. "What did you do?" Just that. No greeting, no context. The accusation was baked into the words. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. My aunt, the one who used to sneak me cookies when I was small. The one who'd promised I'd always belong somewhere. And now she didn't even bother pretending. I typed back slowly. Nothing. They erased me. I just let the world see it. No reply. I set the phone down, my hands trembling, not with guilt, but with the strange electricity of being seen, even in silence. For so long, I'd begged for recognition, begged for a seat at their table. Now I was the ghost at the feast, turning their wine bitter. That night I couldn't sleep. I paced my small apartment, each step echoing in the quiet. My eyes kept finding the framed photo on my shelf, the last family portrait I was ever included in. Thanksgiving 4 years ago. My smile didn't reach my eyes. My sister's hand gripped my shoulder like a claim she didn't want. Even then, I'd been an afterthought. I lifted the frame, tracing the glass with my finger. A crack had formed months ago when it fell from the wall, splitting my face down the middle. I never replaced it. Maybe because some part of me knew the break was the truest version of the story. Now, as their laughter turned to whispers, as their perfect facade splintered under the weight of their own cruelty, I realized that crack wasn't an accident. It was prophecy. The calls started the next morning. Not from my mother, not yet. She always waited until anger had fermented into poison. It was my sister first. Her name lit up my phone, bright and sharp like a siren. I let it ring once, twice. By the third, I answered. Her voice was ice. You think you're clever, don't you? I stayed quiet. Silence is heavier than any insult. We know it was you, she spat. Don't play dumb. You've always been jealous. You couldn't stand us having something nice. I almost laughed. Jealous? The word rolled bitter on my tongue. They had stripped me of belonging and still believed I wanted their scraps. Finally, I spoke. I didn't lift a finger. The resort runs on rules. Not me. That stopped her. For a second, all I heard was her breath, quick, uneven. Then, don't get smug. You're still nothing. Always will be. The line clicked dead. I set the phone on the table, my hand steady even though my chest was trembling. Nothing. Always nothing. The word echoed through me like a hollow drum. But here's the thing about nothing. It leaves space. Space to build, to move, to sharpen. They had filled their lives with appearances, with curated posts and borrowed luxury. I had filled mine with grit, with work, with nights learning systems, rules, people. That difference had never mattered, until now. By afternoon, the storm had grown. Photos of their eviction circled through group chats, even spilling onto Facebook, where older relatives gossiped without filter. One cousin posted a cryptic status. Some people get what they deserve. The cracks widened. I sat at my kitchen table, the old family photo still beside me. The split down my face seemed deeper in the dim light. For years, I'd begged them to see me. Now the world was seeing them instead, and not in the light they'd chosen. I thought about that caption again, without the burden. My sister believed she was making a joke, that her words were clever. But words stick. They mark. They turn into weapons when spoken too easily. Now the same words were coming back to her, reshaped, mirrored. She wanted me gone, invisible. Instead, she'd made herself the spectacle. And for once, I didn't have to lift the weight. It was hers to carry. By the third day, the silence from my mother ended. Her call came just before dusk, when the sky was bruised purple and the streetlights hummed awake. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me needed to hear her voice, needed to know what shape her disappointment would take this time. She didn't waste words. You embarrassed us. Not hello. Not how are you. Just a verdict. I swallowed, pressing the phone tighter to my ear. I didn't embarrass you. I wasn't even there. Her sigh crackled down the line, sharp and brittle. Don't play innocent. He's your boss. You think we don't know? You've been plotting this. I laughed then, a soft, broken sound. Plotting? All I did was breathe, Mom. You're the ones who made the caption. There was a pause, the kind of pause where she wanted to bite back, but knew the truth had already burned through. You've always been difficult, she said finally, her voice low, almost pitying. If you tried harder to be part of this family, maybe things would be different. Different. That word snapped something inside me. I pictured the photo again, the crack splitting me in half. I had tried again and again to glue myself into their frame. Holidays, birthdays, calls that went unanswered. I tried so hard I nearly erased myself. But different wasn't possible. Not with people who decided I was weight not worth. "Mom," I said quietly, "do you hear yourself? You call me difficult when I refuse to be erased. But when they call me a burden, you laugh and double tap. Tell me, how is that family?" She didn't answer. The silence was longer this time, heavier. And for once I didn't feel it. Finally, she muttered, "You'll regret this. Family is all you have." "No," I whispered, voice steady now. "Family is what I deserve. And maybe it isn't you." I hung up before she could reply. The room was so still afterward that I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the faint tick of the wall clock. My chest was tight, but not with fear, with something harder, cleaner. I walked to the shelf, lifted the cracked photo again. My thumb rested on the fracture, the line that split me from them. And for the first time I didn't see damage. I saw release. Glass may break, but in breaking, it no longer hides what's underneath. The fallout spread faster than I imagined. Within a week, the story wasn't just family gossip, it was everywhere. A popular travel blog picked up the video, spinning it into a headline. "Influencer family evicted from luxury resort." My sister's vacation post was screenshotted, caption dissected, comment section flooded. The same strangers who once cheered her photos now wrote things like, "Calling your sibling a burden? Gross." 847 likes had turned into 8,000 judgments. I watched from my couch, laptop glowing in the dark, scrolling through the wreckage. It wasn't joy I felt. It was something sharper, more complicated. Vindication, yes, but also grief. Grief for what could have been if they'd ever chosen kindness instead of cruelty. The phone rang again. Not my family this time. Him, the owner, my mentor. His voice was calm, the same steady tone he used when reviewing contracts. "I thought you should know. They came back today. Tried to argue, tried to twist it. But I told them the truth. Respect isn't optional here. It's policy." My throat tightened. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," he said simply. "I did." When the call ended, I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling the weight of something shift. For once, someone with authority, someone outside the bloodline, had said out loud what I'd been screaming silently my whole life. I mattered. That night, I opened the drawer beside my bed. Inside lay the photo frame, the cracked glass, the frozen smiles, the fracture down my face. I pulled it out, held it under the lamp. The split shimmered like a scar. I thought about throwing it away, about erasing them as cleanly as they'd tried to erase me. But instead, I did something different. I set it on the table, fracture exposed, a reminder. Not of pain, but of truth. The truth that family is not measured by blood, but by recognition, by respect. And as the noise around my sister grew louder, brands pulling sponsorships, friends unfollowing, even my aunt going silent, I realized revenge had never been the point. The point was that silence had finally spoken louder than their cruelty. For once, I didn't need to defend myself. The world was already doing it for me. And in that quiet, I felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not bitterness. Freedom. Days turned into weeks, and their empire of appearances crumbled piece by piece. My sister's account, once curated to perfection, looked abandoned. Photos deleted in chunks, captions rewritten in apology that rang hollow. But the internet never forgets. Screenshots swirled like vultures, circling her name. Friends she used to flaunt stopped tagging her. Collaborations dissolved. The spotlight she once weaponized burned her instead. My mother tried one last time. She came to my door, something she hadn't done in years. When I opened it, she stood there smaller somehow, her voice softer. "You've proven your point," she whispered. "Now let it go. We're still family. I didn't answer right away. Behind me, the cracked photo sat on the table where I'd left it, the fracture gleaming in the light. For so long, that picture had been around. Now it was something else. A symbol of survival. A reminder that broken things don't always need fixing. They can stand as proof. Finally, I said, family isn't something you use as a leash. It's something you earn. And you lost me the moment you called me a burden. Her eyes flickered, wet but unreadable. She left without another word. I sat back down at the table, sliding the photo closer. With a careful hand, I removed the broken glass, leaving only the image behind. My face, split once, was whole again in reflection. And that's when I realized revenge wasn't the eviction or the shame, or even the silence that followed. Revenge was reclaiming myself. It was refusing to carry their weight anymore. The crack had become a mirror, and in it I saw someone who had finally stepped outside their shadow. If this ever happened to you, if your family ever made you the villain of their story, just say same in the comments.